Hello, hello, hello. Hello. Can anybody hear me? Well, there's a picture of me, that's for sure. Um, hello. Oh, God, what's this? Well, I can see myself. So someone can text me, but I don't know if 5 people watching. Well, I think that's working, guys. Can you hear me? We can hear you. Hope you're well. Good. Fantastic. All right, I'm going to fix this up so that it can see me a bit better. Well, that looks all right to me. Is that okay? Someone give some feedback. We can hear you. Hope you are well. Yeah, I am well. So let us see what questions we've got, and I will get my biro out and write down anything which come to mind. Good to see you back on YouTube. Okay, guys. How are you dealing with all the fines you got? Good to see you back on YouTube. Okay, well, we'll talk about fines and then we'll talk about, well, whatever comes up, but I'll certainly do the mayor elections. The fines, well, I've been arrested 16 times since the 16th of May 2020 and had court cases for most of them. Some of them have been dropped. And I've got some accumulated fines, mostly for being assembled with more than 2 people or 6 people or 15 people, depending what the rules were, and also organising things. And these are being paid off at £5 per week. And if any more fines come, then I put them into the box to pay them off at £5 a week. The powers that be might balk at that at some point, but that is what is happening now. So, you know, guys, sometimes you do need to get arrested. Not that you should go for it deliberately, certainly not, but sometimes you have to be prepared for it. If more people were prepared for it, we would get further. And if there's enough people around at any one time, you can have lots of people doing things and not get arrested because the powers that be realise that it'll be difficult for them. We've had numbers of things like that. Like in Cardiff, big crowd around me, the police came up and were clearly looking to arrest me, but they found themselves surrounded by large numbers of miners' sons and or former miners' sons, and backed off. Okay, another message there. How do we stop geoengineering and the PCR test? Yeah, geoengineering is going on, definitely, but it's well, it is real, and they do want to change things, but they're talking about climate when really that's a cover for dropping other things from the sky onto the ground, which are poisoning the ground. Um, but they sell it to the public in terms of geoengineering, so and they admit it. You know, geoengineering is a known study, and the government do it and allow it to be done. And there was a parliamentary committee into the matter, and it finished early because probably they MPs were probing too far as to what was really in these things being sprayed. Um, if I become mayor, I would be demanding a inquiry into what is being dropped on the skies over London, indeed over the whole country. But I would certainly do that. Um, so it is real. It is there mainly to drop things. Um, its presence is probably exaggerated by people who want to get hits on the internet, but I don't want to underrate that it is actually happening. Bill Gates promoted it in terms of saving the planet and said he was going to do experiments in order to find out how effective it was. Um, well, this he did, but it was a very small experiment they did, and it didn't seem to have any impact at all. I'm going to move this around sideways to see if that's any good thing. No, it isn't a good thing because it's oh dear, that was a bad idea. Um, yeah, we're still there, but it's suddenly got a list of actions. I don't want any actions. We're back. Okay. Right. Poisoning of the ground. What will be the concentration of substances? I don't know. There's a lot of people listing substances, barium, for example, but I don't know. It is something that requires a lot more objective investigation. You see, well, saying, look, there's a plane, this is it. But, you know, these planes, all planes that fly have to be recorded somewhere. You know, there are flight test centres, not flight test centres, I mean, air traffic control. They have to control all planes because otherwise they'd be crashing into each other. So, you know, they have records of what is going on. Sorry, let's just put that back straight. I'm going to get a piece of... Sorry, guys. We know this will hold anyway. Oh. I didn't seem to like that there. Oh, I see. No, that's where the camera is. Yes. Okay, I should put this closer so you can see me closer up. Yes. Okay, and I have to lean forward to read that again. Yeah, barium's a metal. I'm not saying it's there as barium metal, but I mean, you know, barium sulfate or something like that. But yes, fair point. Right, next one, electric universe theory. Yes, very important. I've been an active member, although not recently been active, and I've spoken at a lot of electric universe conferences in different parts of the world, in Portugal, in New York, in Albuquerque. No, other conferences in New York, Albuquerque, New Mexico. The idea is that electrical connections between planets and the sun, different stars, and even between galaxies is much more important than previously thought, where we assume basically gravitation is the connection. To my mind, gravitation is a form of electromagnetism, but we won't go into the complexities of that. But just to say, the idea of direct electrical connections, massive currents flowing through the universe, solar system, and so forth, is what it's based on, and I go along with that completely. I mean, for example, the idea that the mountains were formed by massive electric currents when the Earth was in a semi-molten state. I mean, it makes complete sense. Why not? The equations of electromagnetism hold on any scale, so it's all okay. No. We really need to know the substances they're spraying, going back to that, to move on. Yeah, we do. But I would suggest some people do more research onto that. You see, you could do FOIs. I mean, there are some people who do a lot of work on it. Right now, I'm a bit more concentrating on the jabbing of our bodies, which is direct injection of things into us. But it could be that the stuff being sprayed will be used, can be changed and become a trigger in your body when 5G is turned on. And they need something to turn on for the disease X to work. So think about that. Okay, if there's anyone out there who is an expert on, tracking, well, not tracking necessarily, but studying what is being put there, then, we should, up our game on that. So, I welcome any more input onto that. Okay. Do you know that the PCR tests were pure fraud and pure junk science? Yes, I do. Look, let's be clear. The jab was created to justify, sorry, let's start again. The COVID disease was put about, justified, created, the storyline made was created to justify the injection program. It's not the case. The injection program was there because of so-called COVID. No, it wasn't. That's what we're told, of course, but you see what really happened. The scare was created and people got jabbed and then they got ill. So the death rate now is much higher than it was during the so-called peak of COVID. It's a pack of lies. Now, it's astounding that a lot of people still believe it. The BBC repeats it. Safe and effective, they repeat. Look, it's unsafe and dangerous. In fact, it's unsafe and deadly. It's part of murder. So please, guys, you have to argue with people who have been brainwashed, but, carry on doing it. And if I become Mayor of London, obviously I would end all of these injection programs. I'd say they're not allowed to be carried out in London. Okay, next one. Liquid sun, gas sun is really silly. Well, it's... what do you mean? I mean, look, a compressed liquid can be as dense as, or a compressed gas can be as dense as a liquid. So it's a fluid, yeah. What do you mean by liquid? I don't know quite what you... I mean, it's a fluid, right? By a gas, you mean it's expansible. Yes, fair enough. But the sun, I would say it is expansible. I would say it's a gas, essentially. Certainly near the surface. Okay. I understand geoengineering is not permitted over Russia. Is this true? Or if this is true, then it can be stopped. Well, I don't know if it's permitted over Russia. I hope it's not permitted over Russia. I would hope it's not permitted anyway. But geoengineering should be stopped altogether. Yes, it's not there for the claimed purposes, and anyway, man-made climate change doesn't exist, so it's all nonsense. That is a fiction created to justify lots of things. Control, control, control. What do you think of Dr. Theodore Landscheid and the centre of solar system gravity? Yeah, very important stuff. I've done work on that. I think you're referring to the centre of rotation of the solar system not being the centre of the sun, because the sun revolves around something which is affected by the major planets, especially Jupiter. Yeah, what Dr. Lanchard did was excellent. It's complicated. We needn't go into it, but certainly what he did was groundbreaking. I did have correspondence with him when he was alive, correspondence on the internet, and the meetings he spoke at. Someone called Ken Dodds. Have you got the chance of being mayor? Yes, I have. We'll talk about that more in a second. Let's just have a look at these other ones. How do we know nuclear bombs are real and not fake as coronavirus? Well, I think that's a very good question, because I've got documents produced in 1986 about directed weapons and the fact that the Russians had these ahead of the Americans, and the colonel concerned in the American military said, we're miles behind, guys, we've got to do work on it, on directed energy weapons. Well, it was pointed out in these documents, which were written by Americans who had been studying somehow what the Russians had been up to, said that directed energy weapons can be used to take out nuclear missiles before they're taken off, or when they're taken off. So actually, they're superior to nuclear weapons. And you can see when you see the burning up of Hawaii by directed energy weapons that these things are very powerful and probably organized from satellites. Don't involve massive rocketry coming there and exploding in certain places. So they are massively effective. Look, nuclear bombs certainly exist, and you've seen the mushroom clouds, right? They're massive explosions. Have we ever seen a nuclear delivery and a missile? Well, we've seen missile tests, but of course they're missile tests. They're not testing the dropping of a bomb or an armed nuclear warhead. So it's a fair question. My view of all this is that actually the nuclear weapons are there as possibly not armed in any way, ready to scare people into submission of their own governments, who have to beware of the enemy. And if we don't have enough nuclear weapons ourselves, then the enemy might attack us. So you've got to pay lots of taxes and so forth, and obey. I mean, as it was pointed out by Orwell, there's a war out there. There's a lot of wars out there, but they're wars against you. I mean, there are real people dying. Of course there are. There are, but YouTube is causing your phone to overheat. It will automatically close in 20 seconds. Oh, that's a problem. I wonder what we can do about this. Move it around a bit, perhaps.